Hey guys, this is Faster U4 brought to you by FitLab, Tailwind Nutrition, Biomax and Capital Cycles. If you're a cyclist, you want to go faster? Then let's giddy up now. Hey guys, get it on. Welcome back to Faster U4 brought to you by FitLab, Tailwind Nutrition, Biomax and Capital Cycles. Let me tell you, bike racing yesterday. North Island Team Series number 3, the scary one. We had a good ride. I had an okay ride, and I learned some lessons. I'm going to tell you all about what I learned. All right, so if you're looking at the screen, this is on the right, Callum Kennedy in the middle. So he was second. First place was Andy Hagen. I think they refer to him as the Badger or the Honey Badger or something, because he kind of has this unusual petting style, but it's pretty effective. And on the left is me. And if you're having any difficulty determining which is which, apart from the bleeding obvious, the fact that I just described in great detail where we are positioned on the screen. But apart from that, that's because we have upgraded to the 2019 Castelli Free Aero 5.1 kit, and you'll notice the base colour is red. Now that's actually, I realise it's very close to Wheelworks design, but I'm just going to say there's not actually that many teams out there with red kits, so don't worry, it won't look so weird when we're not racing a big Wheelworks team. Alright, so I managed to snag third, but there's kind of a story attached to that ride. I'll tell you what that story is, and there was some learnings to take out of it that you might find useful. So, let's look at data first. North Island Team Series 3 yesterday, starting in Martinborough, coming out kind of south-southeast on the road to a place called Tora, over some very hilly terrain, including one hill called the, Hinakura, starts with an H. It's got some windmills on it, and it's long and it's decisive. So, and then return. 2 laps of a sort of a semi-gravel circuit before Martinborough, into the finish in Dublin Street, just under 2:06. Moving time, a distance of 76.3 k's, climbing 1,028 metres in that time. So, these aren't long, but it's a relatively large amount of climbing for that length of course. What do we got? 2,320 kilojoules burned. I'm going to say close to, 9 hamburgers. It's pretty good. It's a 9 hamburger day. Alright, got an average speed of 36.3 k an hour. Average power, check these numbers, 307 watts. That's the average power of the time from the start of the bike race to the end of the bike race. Pedaling, not pedaling, that's the average power. So that's high. Anytime I'm over about 280, 290 in a race, all things included, that's high. For an effective power, 340 watts. If you look on the cycling analytics here, you can hover over it. It says a definition of effective power if you're not sure what the difference is. So it's like average power, but taking into account the way higher powers are disproportionately harder. The idea is the ride will be just as hard if this was the average power for the entire ride. This number is calculated using a method developed by good old Andrew Coggin. Andy Coggin's written a lot of books about power and its application to cycling. Recommend you check it out. For a total training load of 143 training points. So this race was hard from the start. I'll tell you, my team's tactics were that because Wheelworks were so strong, they had some strong riders up there. Really what we wanted to do was try to send riders up the road. Ben Knight, Urian wasn't riding, Lee Campbell, John Grimwood up the road very early, but never got a chance to happen because if you look at the the power level just in this first 10 minutes of the race. Average power 374 watts, close to 400 watt EP for the first 10 minutes of the race. So yeah, we were hauling out of there pretty quick. Got Matt Webber being very aggressive on the front, and I was marking that. So on my bike, I had a bit of really classy zinc oxide tape, sharpied some numbers on before the race. Those are the guys I had to mark. Guys high in the GC for the series who are going to be a threat on this course, but overall. So if they go, I have to go with them. And I kind of had this, maybe this reputation as a rider where I'm kind of up the front and kind of patrolling and kind of looking around. And a lot of guys think that I'm burning energy doing that. And there's a little bit of energy you expend, but I think, so that's kind of a risk or a cost, but the reward of that strategy is that you can be very aware of who is doing what. Now I could sit back in the bunch, save energy, but the risk is someone will go up the road, I won't even know it and won't be able to respond. That's why I'm there doing that. Andy Hagen was aggressive from the start for the Wheelworks team, and for the remainder until the big hill climb, next 15 minutes of the race, he was off the front, kind of dangling a little bit, about 20 seconds ahead of the bunch. We weren't working that hard till we hit the climb. So let's look at this big dog climb. I averaged bottom to the top just over 11 minutes of climbing, close to 12 minutes. We'll hover over there in cycling analytics. An average power about 381 watts for an EP of 399 watts. That includes the little descents, but the main sort of difficult part of the climb is the first half. It's steeper. For 5 minutes, averages 125 meters of climbing or so, 1.6 Ks, averages just under 8%, and for that 5 minutes or so I'm putting out about EP of about 436 watts. So that's around 5 to 5.5 watts per kilo, and it is in that section that the major damage is done to the bunch, guys coming off left, right and centre. The next part does have some descents and some less hard parts. Second half of the climb, and averaging EP of 358 watts. Bit of descending, a bit of recovery. Guys, slighter climber guys often aren't as good on those sectors because then you need a little bit of power. They have the power to weight but not the gross power. And I like to put the gross into the power, if you know what I mean. So I can catch up a little bit in places like that and sort of aim to TT a little bit. Climb wasn't super hard. Selection came out to maybe 10 to 15 guys. And I should say Kate McElroy holding in there as well. We cruised over the top a little bit. We caught Andy, and I thought, you know what? Dudes are looking around. I'm going to have a little peek on this descent. I know Brendan isn't descending so well at the moment. And he seemed to be sitting at the back a little bit. And, you know, sometimes we had a little tailwind. I really like the idea of, even though you might only have, say, 20, 30 seconds on the chasers, if you're in a breakaway, if you're with a tailwind, that could correspond to, you know, a fairly large distance on the road. And that's quite good for you and bad for the chasers psychologically. So that's kind of a help. So I hit the descent hard, taking close to the KOM on the White Rock Road descent, and instantly followed by very good descenders. We had Andy, we had Callum Kennedy, who, kind of like me with his mountain bike background, is good and when it goes up and when it goes down. A very good descender. I just about cooked it on one of the corners but kept it together, smelled the brakes, lit it up. It was pretty dodgy, but we got down there for a selection of 5 dudes me, Andy Hagan, Kay McCollum, Tristan Thomas, Callum Kennedy. 4 of them wheelworks, 1 lone Fit Lab Ranger. And that, ladies and gents, was the story of the remainder, because we worked pretty well in the valley. And then I had a bit of a choice to make. I knew that if we got to the Martinborough side of the hill, those guys would work me over. So in case you don't know, if you're in a team racing scenario and you're outnumbered like I was, the classic maneuver is called the 1-2. So fast forward this bit if you know it, but if you don't know it, it just simply means you can imagine sitting in a group. One rider from the majority team will attack off the front, usually in flatter areas. That means, of course, if the person who is outnumbered doesn't chase, well, that person's going to win. They have to chase every time. So that means that if Kane was to attack, as he did, or Callum was to attack, as he did, Andy or Tristan could sit on my wheel, quite rightly, because that's team racing, get pulled back up, they could attack. So I'm constantly working. Those guys, the defenders, if you like, are just getting a good free ride. And that's the benefit, one of the benefits of having a strong team around you. The race pans out like that, you get to use your team in that way. I strongly recommend it, and I knew that would happen. So then the question is kind of like, well, from my perspective, how do I defend that? I know I'm outnumbered in that scenario, so what am I going to do? Well, one tactic, it probably depends on you as a rider, but since I'm kind of this all-rounder, we're all working pretty well because we're in the valley. We wanted to make sure, we weren't getting time checks, so we wanted to make sure we had good time in the bunch. That meant we were all working pretty well. Some riders were stronger than others. And so that wasn't a problem. When it came to the hill climb, on the other side, zoom out here on the return side of the Windmill Hill, I would get somewhat of an opportunity to attack, accelerate, see if I could drop a couple of the weaker riders. That's what I did. And at the bottom managed to drop Tristan Thomas. And it was okay. So I was still left with 3 wheelworks riders to deal with at the top. The pace was still pretty decent and pretty consistent. Callum attacked, Kane attacked, and I kind of time trialed my way back up to them around about 400 watts for the majority of that climb. I was a little bit nervous that my leg cramped a little, but managed to keep it together. On the descent, super fast descent. What were we hitting down this descent? This is the fastest part of the course. I think max speed close to 80k an hour. It's pretty fast. And I had to do a little bit of chasing with attacks on the top of the hill and the descent from Callum and Kane. I noticed Kane was getting a little weaker on the other side of the hill, and for the final 3 small climbs, I tried to put down some good power and managed to drop Kane McCollum on one of them. So that was good. He was on his own. Tristan was too far back to link, may have pulled out. So then I had to contend with Callum and Andy, who were going to be very good on this terrain, and unfortunately wasn't a lot of climbing left. Callum attacked on one of the final climbs. All I could do was time trial as hard as I could with Andy on my wheel. Andy attacked me to link with Callum on the final descent, coming to the gravel sector. And the final part of this final 15-20 minutes of this race was me time trialing around somewhere between 10 and 20 seconds behind those two. I did the comparison on the Strava comparison tool as part of the Strava premium package. and it was hovering in that final 15 minutes between, I think, around about that 15-second mark. Sometimes it would come up, sometimes it would come down. I was trying to get aero, I was trying to not blow, I was trying to put out some good power, and the only thing that really would have changed any of this would have been if one of them had hit a problem or cranked or maybe crashed on the gravel. None of that happened. And the final 17 minutes of the race, average power of 331 watts, very consistent time trial. Those guys work great together. I think Callum sending Andy over the line for the win to get maximum points, followed by Callum, of course, and followed by me a few seconds later. So that's kind of what I learned. So that's the race yesterday. That's what I learned about what happens if you get wildly outnumbered, and kind of some tactics you can play about what to do about it. So let's have a look at some results here. Masters 1. Andy Hagen, Kevin Kennedy, Steve Bale. Brendan McGrath, look at the time gap, almost 2 minutes down, with Matt Webber and Kane McCollum must have linked up after we dropped them. So, or got somewhat of a ride with them. So those guys, this is a points format. So yeah, plenty of time, but it doesn't really help me that much in the GC because as far as placing goes, Brendan's still just one behind me. All the dangerous guys doing pretty well. Kate McElroy losing a little bit there. Ben Knight from FitLab, just a super nuggety rider. And Lee Campbell, super nuggety riders, just getting it done, rocking out of rhythm. John Grimwood bringing up the rear a little bit, but learning a lot along the way. Congratulations, guys. A decent ride in Master 1 for FitLab. Masters 2, Cliff Hughes taking it from Lone Star. A big sprint with tons of riders in it, so it didn't get nearly as splintered as it did in Master 1. Cliff winning ahead of Rob Kilvington and Hugh Buke, who will have a lot of good points. Let's have a scroll through here. Mike Proudfoot, a good ride. Preston McCarty coming back to it a bit, doing a good ride for 18th. Jonathan Leonard not doing so well on this course, but he's a time trialist. He's a big boy, so he suffered a little bit there, I guess, losing a little bit. Switching to some track events, I think, coming up. John Caron doing okay. Big fields, look at these fields, man. In Master 3, one by Kevin Hart from Velo Ronnie, Ian Paynton. Ian, like a good all-rounder, he kind of a little bit like me. He climbs good, time trial's pretty good. He's about the same sort of size and shape as me. Maybe not quite as fat as me, to be fair to Ian. And a good rider. He'll be up there in the points. He may have the jersey. Andrew Anson in 3rd. Ali Ferry going well for Optimal Performance in 4th. He will be one of the team leaders of Optimal with Stephen O'Keefe. Both doing well on points. Steve Orchard having a real good ride for a big unit. He climbs well. Followed by Stephen O'Keefe, 10th and 11th respectively. Scroll down here. Any names that jump out? No, bigger fields than Master 1 and the 2. So that's my thoughts. That's the results. I'll just have a little nosy here and see if I had any notes written down about what to talk about. Apart from that, oh yeah, here's one. There's a little drill you can try next time you're warming up. I really love this one. Someone, pretty sure Kashi Lukes of mountain bike fame showed me this one once before a mountain bike race about 1 million years ago. This is called the Granny Gear Race. And mountain biking, not so much in road racing. I say this to people, they look confused at me, but it really, a granny gear is like, mountain bikers call it your granny gear because it's your small ring, your biggest sprocket at the back, so your easiest gear to pedal, like what your granny would pedal in. And what you're going to do is you're going to put your bike, you're going to be with 2 or 3 guys, you're warming up, you're going to shout at them that it's a granny gear race, and you're going to pick a point. On the road, you're going to pick a post, you're going to roll up to that, do a track stand, have it in your granny gear, your smallest front ring, and your biggest sprocket, and you are going to sprint, ideally from a standing start, to the next pole 20-30 meters away. It is fantastic. It's very low load on your muscle, of course. You may not change gears. All you got to do is spin at 200 RPM or as fast as you can to try to get to that post, and it is a great warm-up drill. Do 2 or 3 of those, throw them into your warm-up. I really enjoy those. Replace your warm-up bursts with granny gear drills, 5 to 10 second sprints, 200 RPM. You will enjoy that. Alright, so the full results are out for the series, and I don't really know how well I can do. I missed race number 2, but I will be trying and working the angles and looking at the numbers, and if I can find an angle and if I can find a way to move the needle, move the odds a little bit in my favor in any of these scenarios like came up yesterday, I'll tell you about it. I'll tell you my thoughts, I'll be honest with you. You can look at my data and you can get a bit of an idea about what it takes to be on the podium at Masters 1. I see a lot of my guys improving a lot at the moment. Maybe I'll leave you with this, which is, you know, there's the classic type A behavioural problems that good cyclists have, one of which is you never think you've done enough. There is a time in your plan. As a coach, I plan this out with people in advance. There is a build phase. There's different phases within that. There's a build and there's a race phase. And you would think that people would really enjoy that race phase, and they enjoy the race part. The part they don't enjoy is when the volumes come down, the loads come down, and you really only get to hurt yourself during the events you're doing. And if it's 2 or 3 weeks between events, it can be a little bit weird. We'll throw a little bit of intensity in your program. But here's the thing, even though that's mentally hard, and you feel like you're not doing enough, and you feel kind of like chomping at the bit, it's good, you're fresh, that's what we want. And I see this every time. People complain about that feeling, and their performance goes up. There's some excellent results. Guys putting out record power levels by 10-20% that I'm coaching on those climbs yesterday because they're fresh. Same guys that will complain, they feel a little bit weird, they're not working out hard enough. There's a time for that. There's a time for adaptation. There's a time for freshness and focus and racing. So, you know, some shout outs to guys, Jason Gestro, the magnificent Gestro brothers. Jason Gestro winning the club hill climb race at Ekaterawa yesterday, just showing the power to weight on that course, and an excellent ride from Mike Gregory as well, showing, see, a bigger unit on that course, but if you do the analysis and you know your power targets, you know what you're capable of, and you know the course and the finish and everything, you put in just a little bit of effort to understand your job, and don't freak out that you feel like you haven't done enough work. And you can go in knowing your job, be fresh, you can stitch together during your event phase record power numbers. I'm seeing on my clients' power curves record power numbers during this phase, and it's exciting for me because it's sort of, I feel like, whoa, that's lucky. Turns out this coaching malarkey does kind of work. Woo! And also, I mean, it works for me. I put out record power numbers on that climb yesterday, and actually I got to tell you, it didn't feel that hard. I was not on the rivet. My heart rate was 8 to 10 beats below its max on that hill climb, the first climb up yesterday. I put out a few watts more than last year, and it did not feel hard, and that helped me a lot. So my shape is better, my weight is lower. It's the same for these guys. Yeah, I get it. It's hard during the week. You start to feel fat and weird. You know, don't pick up the bowl of ice cream. And look, here's maybe a little tactic you can do, kind of like what I'm doing now. Get on your turbo trainer. Maybe listen to an audio book. Educate yourself on something. You could educate yourself, but an audio book or a podcast about a subject that's going to help you add value to your work life or something like that. Tap out, very easy, sub 1 millimole of lactate, something like that. About 150 watts for me. Just on your turbo trainer for half an hour. Get a little sweat up, drink some water, get the sort of hormones flowing, and you feel so much better for doing something, but it will have no effect on your performance and will boost your recovery, if anything. So what I'm saying is you can still do something, just make it the right thing. If you do something, it will feel good. It's my little turbo trainer tip. Alright guys, so next event, the FYF70, which confusingly is an 80-kilometre time trial around Lake Wairarapa, Sunday, run by the Masters Club. Highly recommend if you want to know what it's like to ride an 80k TT. Come on, give it a go. It's almost bang on 80k's if you want to put that on your stem. Bang on. There's often some wind on this course, so you know, if in doubt, probably go a shallow front wheel. Disc is usually fine, unless you're really small. You want to choose a power target, top end of your maximum aerobic function. It's the point where it's about 3 millimoles of lactate. So for me, oh, and by the way, I'm talking about in your TT position. So we're talking about something like, if you're FTP, it's 400 watts. Let's say in TT position, you need to shave about close to 10% off that. There's about 360 watts. It's your lactate 4, your FTP. You shave about another 10% off that. So you go from 400, you go to 360 for TT position, FTP 400, TT position 360, 10%, 36, call it 40. We're down to 320 watts. So you're going to hover, and you maybe want to go just conservative. So just under that. That's probably going to be your lactate 3. So you're going to, if you're me, that's your algorithm. You're going to be targeting somewhere around 310 watts for the majority of that course. A little conservative. It's long, so don't fry yourself early. And you're going to know how the distance is, and you're going to know when you're in the last 5 to 10 k's of that, and you're going to feel, based on RPE, how much more you can push till the finish. That way you won't blow, you'll finish with your best time. And if you're right about that calculation, you'll probably go, you know what, this is about all I've got for 80 k's. Combine that with a good slippery position, low drag coefficient, it could be good times. I'll be going for a sub 2 hour at the FYF70, and the course record is about 152, 153, held by none other, I think, than Ben Knight, riding on our team yesterday. Excellent time trialist. Hope you'll be there. I assume that was done in pretty good conditions, and I think with my drag coefficient about 0.24, 245, with my new setup, and with about 310 watts, the calculation gets me very close to that record. Lucky conditions, I don't know. We'll see if we can go close. See if we can get another name in the Masters Club record book. I'll try, but it's kind of dependent. Alright guys. As always, this is brought to you by FitLab, Tailwind Nutrition, Biomass and Capital Cycles. If you would like a training plan from me, you can email me, Steve, at fitlab.co.nz. Go to our website. Check out the Palmaris. Check out the good photos of me, Brad, Andrew, Scotty. fitlab.co.nz. And you know what? Come see me. See if See if I've got any bottles, Fit bottles, tailwind, maybe some socks in the team car. And you know what? Get on the podium, you come see me, hook you up with some swag. Good times, guys. I'll see you on the weekend.